Hello, my name is Stephanie Sharian, and I'm going to be presenting my individual species presentation on dogs. So, I'm the proud owner of two white Labradors. So, I thought it would be really interesting to research them further and maybe present and discuss the species of dog. So, a dog is a domesticated descendant of the wolf, also called a domestic dog. It was domesticated from extinct population of Pleistocene wolves over 14,000 years ago. The dog was the first species to be domesticated by humans, as people may or may not know. And as said by the National Geographic, while these animals very drastically change in appearance from breed to breed, animal to animal, every dog from the Chihuahua to the Great Dane is a member of the same species, which is Canis familiaris. This separates domestic dogs from wild canines such as coyotes, foxes, and wolves. Domestic dog has a lifespan of approximately 10 to 13 years, a gestation period of 58 to 68 days. It comes from the class Mammalia, or mammal, domain Eukaryota, family Canidae. The genus is Canis. Some animals include, dogs and cats, birds, lizards, fish, and even humans all have backbones. So we're all labeled as vertebrates. So where can a dog be found, you might ask? Well, dogs can be found, as you may know, throughout the whole wide world, every single continent except for Antarctica. So in the wild, dogs succeed in habitats that provide ample food, water, and cover like forest and brushlands. So now let's just talk about some major life requirements. The first one being feeding. And this one might be a little controversial because they fall under the order Carnivora. So a lot of people actually think that they're strictly meat eaters and carnivores only, but they're actually omnivores, which means that they can have both plant-based and meat-based diet. So they have an evolutionary history that dogs came from wolves and they've been adapted to consume an omnivorous diet through sort of the guidance of humans. So they went from mostly meat and like a carnivorous diet to a starch-rich diet. Now, when we're thinking of breeding, you can probably guess there is both intentional and unintentional breeding with domesticated dogs. So the American Kennel Club has defined 4 periods in a female dog's breeding cycle. There is prostrus, where the female dog attracts the male. They have a bloody vaginal discharge. The vulva is swollen, and this can last about 9 days. But they won't be breeding at this time during this period. And then the next period is estrus, and this is a period that lasts another 9 days. And this is where we're going to attract the male dog and where we get fertilized. So ovulation usually occurs in the first 48 hours, but it can vary. And then the next period is distress, and that can last between 60 to 90 days. Distress is a period when the reproductive tract is under the control of the hormone progesterone, which we also as humans have progesterone. This occurs whether or not the female dog becomes pregnant. And then the last period is anestrus, and that's no sexual activity takes place, and it can last for 3 to 4 months. And that's kind of where they hang out most of the time. So let's talk a little bit about intentional breeding. Like, why might somebody do that? Well, they're trying to improve the breed, or they want to breed specifically for a purebred dog. That would be kind of a reason, or maybe like a show dog. So the way that it kind of scientifically, sort of anatomically happens is during breeding, the male dog will mount the female from the rear, clasp her midsection in his front paws. It'll be rapid pelvic thrust followed by penetration and ejaculation. After the pelvic thrusts cease, both dogs will not separate actually for 10 to 30 minutes. This is known as a tie, and it's actually good to let them sort of naturally come apart when they're ready. So, where might they be sheltered? Dogs can live in their owners' homes, in their owners' backyards, and if they don't have an owner yet, they can be found in animal shelters, they can be found in pet rescues or a pet store until they get an owner. But research has shown that dogs that live indoors tend to live longer due to a more stress-free environment, or less stress, I should say. So let's talk about conservation status. So for the conservation status of dogs, luckily they are not endangered, they're not threatened. However, there are some agencies that try to protect rare breeds from disappearing. So they're not really at risk of extinction. However, there is an African wild dog listed as endangered on the IUCN Red List, and they have been there since the 1990s. So, are dogs a sensitive species as defined by are they declining in population? No, dogs are not a sensitive species. So, what's being done to preserve, protect, restore the population of dog? They are well, they are booming, they're thriving, they're doing great. Lots of people love dogs, myself included. I have two. So while they're wonderful and people love them, there's even some people that in some parts of the world feel like there's an overpopulation of dogs, because they're either not domesticated, or they're not vaccinated, or they're just roaming free and they're eating up the bird population. So, interestingly enough, there might be too many in some places versus not enough. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed our dog talk. Come back anytime to learn more about the wonderful species.